have low vision, or have another print disability which makes reading, holding a book, or turning a page difficult or impossible. The content is copyrighted by the respective publishers. For more information, please visit us on the web at nfradioreading.org.
Hello, this is Jim Michaely, and for the next hour I'll be reading from the November 29th issue of the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. Let's start on the first page. Article is entitled East Side Excellence Awards coming December 10th. Nominations are now open for churches on the east side of Buffalo to present one of their deacons for recognition as a St. Brian Clothier's Deacon of the Year at the inaugural East Side Excellence Awards, brought to you by King Urban Life Center. The awards ceremony is happening on December 10th, 2025 at 8 a.m. at the Social Hall, Campbell Student Union at Buffalo State University at 1300 Elmwood Avenue. Tickets are free. RSVP at tinyurl.com/Eastside Awards. St. Brian Clothier's, which is named after the late Deacon Brian Woods of New Direction Christian Fellowship. DeWitt Lee, who is Brian Woods' uncle, is the founder of the Free Men's Suit resource in Western New York and is driven to ensure the deacons of the community are celebrated. This commitment grew after 5/14, when we suffered the loss of 10 beloved members of the community, including the popular and always serving Deacon Howard Patterson of State Tabernacle Church of God. After the tragedy, his family donated his clothing to St. Brian Clothier's and ensured them with making sure it went to men in need. One of the suits has been set aside for display in our future storefront as a reminder of his service and sacrifice. Churches are encouraged to go to tinyurl.com/Deacons of the Year to nominate a deacon from their church. All members of the church are invited to the East Side Excellence Awards free gala and breakfast to witness them being recognized and enjoy a day dedicated to honoring champions of the East Side. A Dress the Deacons event hosted by St. Brian Clothier's, King Urban Life Center, and Helping All the People, Inc., is scheduled for December 11th at 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. at the King Urban Life Center, 938 Genesee Street, Buffalo, New York. Free suits, shirts, ties, jackets, and shoes will be given away to all deacons of churches from all across Western New York. For more info, contact DeWitt Lee III at 716-349-7809 or email stbrianclothiers@gmail.com. Also from the front page, this article is titled Building a Diverse Future, Advocating for Minority Representation in Buffalo's Construction Industry. It's by Eric Perry. On November 19th, 2025, the East Buffalo Development Corporation and the Independent Contractors Guild of Western New York, ICG, hosted a vibrant community forum addressing critical issues in the construction industry at the Frank E. Merriweather Library in Buffalo, New York. This gathering brought together contractors, advocates, and industry leaders to share their experiences and discuss strategies for enhancing minority representation and equity in construction projects. A significant concern raised during the forum was the lack of representation of Black-owned construction companies in Buffalo. Despite the city's rich history and diverse community, many attendees noted that Black contractors often struggle to secure contracts, limiting their opportunities for growth and sustainability. One participant expressed, "It's disheartening to see funds being taken from our community without giving back to those who build it." The systemic barriers contributing to this lack of representation were a focal point of discussion. Another attendee articulated the frustration many feel, stating, "Who holds contractors responsible for meeting minority business enterprise goals?" This lack of accountability within the contracting process has led to a cycle where Black-owned businesses are frequently overlooked in favor of larger, established firms that may not reflect the community's diversity. Unity and collaboration among minority contractors were emphasized as vital to fostering successful business opportunities. One speaker highlighted, "We need trust within our community to build successful businesses and opportunities." The importance of community support was echoed by another participant who noted, "We are here to support our community and help navigate the industry." Personal stories shared during the forum highlighted the challenges faced by minority contractors, including discrimination and blacklisting. One contractor candidly discussed his experiences, saying, "I've faced discrimination and blacklisting. It's incredibly difficult to be excluded from opportunities." This sentiment reinforced the need for collective action to address systemic issues affecting minority contractors. As the forum concluded, participants expressed a shared commitment to creating a more equitable construction industry. The conversation sparked a sense of hope and motivation to continue advocating for change and supporting one another in their professional journeys. Major themes discussed included workforce development, the pressing need for accountability in contracts, and the impact of racism and discrimination on minority contractors. Participants explored the existing legislative framework supporting MBE participation and emphasized the importance of networking among minority contractors to create a united front. The lack of black construction companies being utilized in Buffalo underscores the need for systemic change. Attendees emphasized that fostering relationships between local governments, developers, and minority contractors is crucial for ensuring that the community's needs are met and that opportunities are equitably distributed. The event highlighted the collective strength of the community and reinforced the commitment to creating better opportunities for minority contractors in the construction industry. With plans for ongoing dialogue and collaboration, attendees left inspired to continue their advocacy for change, showcasing the power of community engagement in building a brighter future for all in the construction sector. Buffalo Mayor Christopher P. Scanlon's $95 million capital budget approved. Buffalo, New York. City of Buffalo Mayor Christopher P. Scanlon announced that the Buffalo Common Council has officially approved his 2026 capital budget, a $95 million spending plan that makes significant investments in Buffalo's infrastructure, community facilities, cultural institutions, public safety resources, and educational facilities across the city. This capital budget invests in the places residents depend on every single day, said City of Buffalo Mayor Christopher P. Scanlon. From community centers and parks to fire halls, police facilities, cultural institutions, and our public schools, this plan strengthens every corner of Buffalo. This budget prioritizes our neighborhoods, supports the facilities families use every day, and continues building a stronger, safer, and more resilient Buffalo. It reflects the strong collaboration between my administration and the members of the Buffalo Common Council, and it ensures we are delivering improvements rooted in neighborhood priorities across every district. The approved budget expands on the recommendations of the Citizens Planning Council and includes major investments across several priority areas, including community center investments. The 2026 capital budget includes substantial investments in community servicing facilities across Buffalo, totaling over $5 million. Parks, recreation, and public spaces. To strengthen recreational access citywide, the budget includes over $7 million in park and outdoor space improvements, aquatic investments, and citywide park investments. Cultural institutions and libraries. The 2026 capital budget continues the city's commitment to Buffalo's cultural and educational assets with more than $4 million in improvements. Public safety and public works. The budget provides over $15 million in upgrades to police, fire, and public works departments. Buffalo Public Schools, $55.6 million, up to 97% New York State reimbursement. As the City of Buffalo is the bonding entity for all Buffalo Public Schools capital projects, the 2026 capital budget includes $55.6 million in school facility improvements, up to 97% reimbursable by New York State, resulting in no long-term debt to the city. Citywide infrastructure improvements. The capital budget includes a dedicated citywide infrastructure improvements line, totaling $8,283,044. End of article. On page 2, here's an article titled, Preparing for Aging in Place, Exterior Lighting. As we age, maintaining independence and safety in the home becomes a top priority. One of the most overlooked, yet most impactful elements of an age-in-place plan is proper exterior lighting. Good lighting not only enhances safety and visibility, but also provides peace of mind, comfort, and a welcoming environment for both residents and visitors. That's why Mahadi Enterprises, Inc. took part in a free interior and exterior lighting program in the city of Buffalo for seniors residing on the east side, in collaboration with the East Buffalo Development Corporation. The free lighting project allowed us to assist in interviewing, making appointments, and installing interior and exterior motion sensor lighting on the interior and exterior of the homes. This article will focus on why exterior lighting is important for seniors and visitors to the home. Reduced night vision, slower reaction times, and balance issues can make nighttime navigation difficult for older adults and visitors. Inadequate lighting around steps, walkways, or driveways can increase the risk of falls and injuries. Additionally, well-lit exteriors help deter intruders and make it easier for emergency personnel to locate the home quickly. In our Preparing Your Home for Winter workshop with National Fuel Gas, we often recommend motion sensor lighting on the exterior to deter intruders and to help reduce the cost associated with using dusk-to-dawn light fixtures. Modern universal design technology makes managing home lighting effortless. Motion sensors versus dusk-to-dawn controls and smart lighting systems ensure that areas are illuminated automatically without requiring switches, perfect for seniors with limited mobility or dexterity. Solar-powered lighting fixtures along the walkways and placed on or along staircases and handrails are also recommended. These are a few recommendations where lighting should be located to ensure both safety and comfort. Consider these areas as your first steps for exterior lighting placements. Entryways. Install motion sensor lights at all doors. Walkways and pathways. Use solar, low-level, glare-free LED path lights to clearly define walking areas without creating harsh shadows. Driveways and garages. Bright overhead or wall-mounted motion fixtures recommended. Stairs, steps, decks, and patios. Add recessed step lighting or rail-mounted solar LEDs to reduce tripping hazards. Solar path lights. Eco-friendly and easy to install, perfect for gardens, walkways, staircases, and handrails. Lighting isn't just about brightness. It's about creating an environment that promotes independence, confidence, and safety. With thoughtful exterior lighting design, seniors and veterans can enjoy their homes comfortably and securely for years to come. Two notes in the community news column. The evangelistic Temple Church family at 92 Headley will recognize their pastor, the Reverend George Dubois, November 30th at 12 noon. Special guests will be Reverend James Dubois and Jordan Grove Baptist Church. This will be Pastor George Dubois' 39th pastoral anniversary. Refreshments will follow the service. And also, the Concerned Citizens Development Corporation distributed Thanksgiving Day baskets to residents on November 23rd. The CCDC is located at 134 William Street and has worked to better the community for over 50 years, assisting residents with various needs, referrals, food drives, and gently used clothes. There's a photo showing Mary Brown, who's the president, Sonia Brown, vice president, and Damone Kincaid. There's an ad on this page for personal injury law from the law office of John V. Elmore, PC. He's in partnership with Kristen Elmore Garcia, Esquire, and the ad says that they are fighting for your life. Their location is 2969 Main Street, Suite 200 in Buffalo, 14214, and their phone number is 716-300-0000. Again, that's the law office of John V. Elmore, PC. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This is the Towards a Better Life column by Ava M. Doyle. The title of the column is A Tribute to Dr. Juanita Kirkland Hunter. Dr. Juanita Kirkland Hunter passed away on Friday, November 14, 2025. She was a faithful member of First Shiloh Baptist Church. Dr. Hunter left a legacy of service to the nursing profession and was a leader in the education of future nurses. This columnist presented her with the Roses for Outstanding Woman Award in 2015. This award was given in recognition of the work of hundreds of women in Western New York who made positive contributions in the city of Buffalo in many areas. In this day and age, when we have a shortage of nurses nationally, it is important to recognize our healthcare professionals. Dr. Hunter was a role model for many years and led the way for so many African Americans. Dr. Hunter was born in Buffalo to Albert and Mamie Kirkland in 1930. She was raised in a large, close-knit family, deeply connected to the history of the Great Migration and the development of Buffalo's black community. She earned her nursing diploma at the E.J. Meyer Memorial Hospital School of Nursing, followed by a Bachelor of Science, a Master of Science in Nursing, and a Doctor of Education from the State University of New York at Buffalo. Her nursing career spanned more than 50 years and touched every aspect of the field: clinical practice, public health, academia, and professional leadership. She served in hospital and community settings, including the E.J. Meyer Memorial Hospital, now the Erie County Medical Center. She was an exceptional teacher, a mentor, and colleague. She helped to shape generations of nurses, teaching them the science of care and the importance of advocacy and compassion. Her academic work was recognized by the nursing profession. Dr. Hunter also worked at the Buffalo Veterans Administration Medical Center. Her story is included in a book called Buffalo's Blacks Talking Proud, written by the late historian and nurse Ava M. Knowles. The book is in the public library. This book tells the stories of hundreds of black professionals that have made history in areas of law, medicine, social work, education, business, media, politics, and many other fields. This book was included in my classroom when I taught in the Buffalo Public Schools. It is a reference book for students to learn more about the history of African Americans. In his eulogy, Reverend Dr. Jonathan R. Staples, senior pastor of First Shiloh, talked Dr. Hunter's life story and accomplishments. He noted that Dr. Hunter taught, she empowered, she spoke with integrity. She gave her very best. She left excellence with her church family and her children. Her excellence extended beyond her household. She brought wisdom. This columnist remembers Dr. Hunter with honor and respect. Dr. Hunter was preceded in death by her parents Albert and Mamie Kirkland and her husband Archie Hunter. She is survived by her children, Jeffrey A. Hunter, married to Maddie, Wayne B. Hunter, and Gail D. Hunter, Nadine. Her grandchildren, Melissa Hunter, Olivia Hunter Glinsky, and Bryant Hunter Glinsky. Her siblings, Beatrice Kirkland, Reverend Dr. Margaret Kirkland, Jeanette Clinton, and Tarabu Betsari Kirkland, Nobuku, and a host of nieces, nephews, cousins, colleagues, and friends. She leaves behind a powerful legacy of service. May she rest among the angels of heaven. Honor and respect to her memory. There's an ad on page 2 for the upcoming inaugural Eastside Excellence Awards, founded by the King Urban Life Center. On December 10th at 8:30 a.m., the Campbell Student Union at Buffalo State University will host this presentation. The awards will be given at the King Urban Life Center. There will be free Breaking Bread, Breaking Chains, Connecting Human Rights with Community, Excellence Gala and Breakfast. St. Brian Clothiers is proud to include the second annual Deacon of the Year Awards to deacons from churches on the east side of Buffalo. Each church can recognize a deacon from their own congregation to be honored at these awards. And for more information, you can call DeWitt Lee at 716-349-7809. Buffalo Common Council approves homestead plan. Buffalo, New York. The Buffalo Common Council approved the 2025 homestead plan to sell vacant city-owned lots in residential zones at a flat rate of a minimum of $1,000 to neighboring homeowners, developers, and nonprofits under certain conditions. The City of Buffalo owns about 6,000 vacant lots in residential zones, primarily concentrated on the east side, and has had a homestead plan since 1974 in order to encourage new uses for these empty spaces. Vacant properties can have blighting impacts on neighborhoods by attracting pests and rodents, acting as dumping grounds for trash, and fueling crime and vagrancy, all of which contribute to a sense of neglect and harm the quality of life for neighboring residents. Additionally, vacant lots depress neighboring property values, weaken the city's tax base, and expend city resources for maintenance and other costs. There are 4 components that categorize the eligibility of vacant lots for sale under the homestead plan. First, new construction. Prospective homeowners and builders will be eligible to homestead vacant lots for new construction if they construct 1 to 3 unit residences for homeownership purposes, if they complete construction within 24 months, and if the homeowner of the completed structure owns the home for at least 5 years, among other conditions. Secondly, side yard acquisition. Homeowners will be eligible for the homestead program to augment their side yards, not the rear or the front, to increase the value of owner-occupied properties and decrease public expenditures on maintaining vacant lots, among other conditions. Prospective purchasers must show proof of ownership and occupancy of the adjoining residence. Next, renovation. Prospective homeowners and nonprofits are eligible to homestead abandoned structures. Nonprofits must agree to sell the property to a qualified home buyer upon completion of the renovations. City-owned properties that are in deteriorated condition or have potential for causing blight in the neighborhood are considered eligible under this program. Stewardship. Vacant lots are eligible for the homestead program if the purchaser intends to develop a community asset, such as a community garden or an urban farm. The purchaser must demonstrate successful stewardship of a vacant city-owned site for at least 5 years and must maintain the property as a stewardship land use. The identification of lots to be included in the homestead program will be guided by community planning and engagement efforts conducted by the Mayor's Office of Strategic Planning. All decisions regarding properties proposed to be homesteaded will be made on a case-by-case basis, depending on the proposal submitted and the highest and best use for the property. Where applicable, purchasers must be current on all property taxes, water, sewer, and user fees, and have no public liens or code violations on any properties. It's time our vacant lots become assets for the neighborhoods they're located in, and there are a number of ways to achieve that goal with this homestead plan, said Brian Bowman, Buffalo Common Council President pro tempore. I am excited to see vacant parcels potentially sold to adjacent neighbors who have dealt with the blight throughout the years. Right now, the lack of maintenance on many of these lots puts an unnecessary strain on our city departments and holds our neighborhoods back. By moving these properties into productive uses, especially for affordable housing and future development, we can strengthen the community, reduce burdens on city resources, and improve the overall quality of life for our residents. Ellicott District is home to the largest share of the vacant city-owned lots in Buffalo, and our community has suffered far too much from the blight and depressed property values caused by these empty spaces. Leah M. Halton Pope, Buffalo Common Council Majority Leader, said, "The new homestead plan approved today is an opportunity to turn this vacancy into vibrancy. By selling vacant lots to homeowners, nonprofits, and developers who are in good standing at below fair market value, we are incentivizing the revitalization of our neighborhoods and reducing the burden on our city resources. I will continue to work to ensure this plan is implemented fairly and effectively to strengthen our community and improve quality of life for our residents." Vacant properties have depressed neighborhoods, depleted city resources, and harmed quality of life across East Side communities for too long, said Zanetta Everhart, Maston District Common Council member. By adopting this new homestead plan, we are incentivizing and encouraging new uses for these blighted properties, be it for development, side yard acquisition, renovation, or creation of stewardship assets like community gardens. I look forward to implementing this plan and continuing our work to revitalize and strengthen communities across our city. UB to offer online affordable housing degree certificate. Newly improved online program will prepare students to ensure future housing is made affordable for all. Buffalo, New York. The University at Buffalo School of Architecture and Planning will soon offer an online certificate program in affordable housing, designed for aspiring individuals or current professionals with a bachelor's degree. This graduate degree certificate was recently approved by the New York State Education Department for implementation in fall of 2026. For over 50 years, the school has worked with the surrounding communities to bring a central educational experience for hopeful architects, environmental designers, preservationists, urban planners, and real estate developers. By offering this program online, the school hopes to expand access and reach while offering greater flexibility for current working professionals. Individuals may complete the Affordable Housing Certificate as a standalone academic credential or in conjunction with an existing University at Buffalo graduate level degree program, including a Master of Architecture, Master of Science in Real Estate Development, or Master of Urban Planning degree. Race, gender, and social equity in housing remain a major concern in the architecture and planning disciplines, says Matthew Rowland, Director of the Real Estate Development Program in the School of Architecture and Planning. By addressing new ways to lower the cost of housing planning, design, and development, the Graduate Affordable Housing Certificate aims to test innovative solutions to existing challenges. The newly approved online program will consist of 15 credits, offering courses in housing and community development, affordable housing in practice, real estate principles and processes, and site analysis and development. The program culminates in an affordable housing independent study, where students are encouraged to reimagine innovative, community-centered design solutions in their own backyards. Here's a few quick ads. EMT Coffee Cup Cafe at 80 Oak Grove Street is open Tuesdays through Saturdays. For takeout only on Sunday mornings, catering is available. They serve breakfast, sandwiches, salads, wings, hoagies, coffees, teas, smoothies, and more. That's EMT Coffee Cup Cafe at 80 Oak Grove Street. There's a pistol permit course, concealed carry license, being offered by joewoolley.com. VIP Barbershop, located at 1456 Fillmore Avenue in Buffalo. Llewellyn Daniel is the principal. They specialize in the latest cuts, styles, and shaves. Kerry Saunders is host of Senior Moments, which airs Saturdays at 11 a.m. over WUFO 1080 a.m. and Power 96.5 FM. Senior Moments discusses topics of concern that affect seniors and baby boomers. There's an ad from the Assigned Counsel Program of Erie County that says if Child Protective Services, CPS, contacts you, call our free legal advice hotline Monday through Friday, 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. That number is 716-846-1181. What are my rights in a Child Protective Services investigation? You have the right to know the details of the allegation made against you. You have the right to speak with an attorney before speaking with CPS. You have the right to refuse CPS entrance to your home without a court order. You have the right to keep your immigration status private. You have the right to an interpreter if one is needed. You have the right to refuse mental health or drug test evaluation without a court order. You have the right to refuse to have CPS question your children without a court order. and you have the right to refuse services recommended by CPS. Dr. Bird's Caribbean Restaurant at 3104 Main Street serves patties, dinners, sandwiches, rotis, desserts, ice cream, island specials, and they also have phone cards. Again, that's Dr. Bird's Caribbean Restaurant at 3104 Main Street. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. From the opinion section of the paper, here's a column by Frank Gist titled, "Is That Right?" And it's subtitled, "Iceberg Epstein Gone Wild." I'm so sick of hearing the name of Jeffrey Epstein. The Epstein saga is now embedded in politics, and it is starting to get tiresome. Iceberg Epstein was the premier pimp and go-to guy for the world's ruling class and beyond. Since my first column about this subject, I still believe this entire story is a worldwide psyop. Epstein is not dead, but escaped, and is alive and well somewhere in the world with a young blonde, blue-eyed debutante licking his plastic surgery wounds. But that's just me. I don't get the point of all the media fascination with the Epstein files. Do they think there's something titillating in them about Trump? What difference will it make? He has already been elected president twice. To be honest, Americans knew from the day he came down that golden elevator that he was a blank hound, or what is clinically known as a hypersexual narcissistic a-hole. That was made plain when he was discovered to have arranged sex with a professional porn star. I don't believe most ordinary men would really want to have sex with a porn star. What are you going to do, rock her world? I think not, but that is just me. I'd like to say something about Epstein's characterization as a pedophile, because he was pimping out 13 and 14-year-old girls. I think that's a media-driven fake news conclusion. True pedophiles are people that want sex with prepubescent children, like Michael Jackson. Allegedly. I'm not trying to blame the victims here, but from what I have read, many of those young so-called victims were enticed to have sex for jobs and money. Isn't that called prostitution, the oldest profession? You can visit Children's Hospital every day of the week and find 13 and 14-year-olds having babies. My grandmother was married with child at 15. Was my 21-year-old grandfather a pedophile? I'm not trying to blame the so-called victims, but at the end of the day, billions of dollars are up for grabs between victims and lawyers. It's all about the Benjamins. Someday the truth will be revealed, and the world will learn we have all been suckers. As for Trump, I'd be willing to bet he is pussyfooting around with someone in the White House at this moment, for no other reason than not to be outdone by Bill Clinton. Stay tuned. Again, that was an opinion piece by somebody named Frank Gist, and under a column called "Is That Right?" Here's something maybe a little more uplifting. It's a column by Eva M. Doyle in her Eye on History column, and the title is "African Americans in Buffalo, a Story of Struggle, Change, and Achievement." The first black man to come to Buffalo was Joseph Hodge. He arrived in the late 1700s. Hodge was taken prisoner by the Senecas during the Revolutionary War era. He was released by them to the authorities at Fort Stanwix in December 1784. Hodge then returned to the Seneca Nation. He became a hunter and a fur trader. Hodge established a fur trading business and a tavern. Known as Black Joe, he was very helpful to the early white settlers as a guide and interpreter. Hodge married a Seneca woman. He became fluent in the language of the Senecas. He built his home on the bank of the Buffalo Creek. His presence at a Buffalo Creek was noted in a report in a council meeting of the Seneca Nation in 1788. One of his sons was killed in the War of 1812. The arrival of Joseph Hodge was just the beginning of a community of blacks in Buffalo that saw many changes, both good and bad. Although the population of blacks in Buffalo was small in the early years, the struggle for equal rights was constant. The Buffalo Anti-Slavery Society was formed on July 4, 1834. In August of 1843, the National Convention of Negro People held a great convention in Buffalo. a Presbyterian preacher named Henry Highland Garnet gave a stirring address. His speech was entitled, "Address to the Slaves of the United States of America." He called upon them to rise up and fight for their lives and liberty. The Free Soil Party held a national meeting in Buffalo on August 9, 1848. It was one of the largest political gatherings ever held in the country. The theme of this convention was free soil, free speech, free labor, and free men. The National Liberty Party also held a convention in Buffalo in Lafayette Square on August 30, 1848. The members adopted a resolution calling for the abolition of slavery. The struggle for equal rights continued in the area of education. Henry Moxley was one of the people who fought constantly for equal education for blacks. He was a fugitive slave born in Virginia in 1808. He escaped to Buffalo around 1832, and in a short time he established a barbershop and purchased property by 1870. He later owned almost $3,000 in property. Moxley became an activist for better education. He organized a series of meetings with prominent blacks such as Peyton Harris and Dr. Benjamin C. Taylor. They protested the inferior black Vine Street School, which was located in a basement under a city market. The Vine Street School was described by Frederick Douglass as a low, damp, dark cellar, better fit for an ice house. Moxley finally took his case to the state Supreme Court. It was a long fight, and Moxley was defeated 3 times. Finally, the Buffalo Common Council closed the last African school in 1880. The struggles continued, and the early 1900s saw the formation of the Niagara Movement in 1905. The emergence of black leadership made an impact with such people as Reverend Jesse Edward Nash, Mary Burnett Talbert, William Talbert, Monroe Trotter, W.E.B. Du Bois, John Hope, and 29 others. They were not able to get hotel accommodations in Buffalo. They traveled to the Fort Erie Beach Hotel in Ontario for their first meeting, which was held from July 11th to 13th, 1905. The demands of the Niagara Movement were written in a document called the Declaration of Principles that condemned racial discrimination and called for equal opportunities for blacks. The Niagara Movement was the forerunner of the NAACP. Despite the challenges, blacks prevailed in a number of areas in Buffalo. They excelled in law, business, education, the media, and the arts and sports. Many became wealthy even in the 1800s, with such people as Dr. Benjamin Taylor, the first black doctor in Buffalo, who struck it rich in the California gold rush. He returned to Buffalo and, along with William Talbert, invested heavily in real estate, purchasing large areas of land on Grand Island. Black literary societies and debate clubs were formed in the early 1800s. Blacks owned hotels such as the Manhattan in 1908 and the Little Savoy in 1902. The Little Harlem Hotel, located at 494 Michigan Avenue, was a popular entertainment spot that featured such people as Billie Holiday, Dinah Washington, Cab Calloway, Frank Sinatra, Bing Crosby, Louis Armstrong, and many others. A black cab company known as the Brown Bomber Fleet featured drivers dressed in leather coats and hats. It was named in honor of the great heavyweight fighter Joe Louis. The Colored Musicians Club continues to honor the jazz history of Buffalo. CEO Sheila Brown is the owner of the black radio station WUFO 1080 and 96.5 AM. Black newspapers were established, such as the Criterion in 1925, the Challenger, the Buffalo American, and the Voice. The Criterion newspaper is now the oldest black newspaper in Western New York, published by the Meriwether family. The Criterion is 100 years old and still recording African American history in Western New York. It has been recognized by a number of community organizations, including the New York State Assembly. The Juneteenth Committee has also honored the Criterion for its 100th anniversary. The Criterion also received the Legend Award from the Black Achievers in Industry this past year. It was also recognized by the City of Buffalo for its outstanding contributions to Buffalo. The Criterion was also nominated for the Ethics in Business Award by this columnist for its professional and community contributions. The entire Merriweather family continues to carry on the traditions of the late publisher Frank E. Merriweather, Jr. Buddy's Second Chance Rescue announces Paw It Forward fundraiser to be held Saturday, December 20th from 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. at The Ridge in West Seneca. Buddy's Second Chance Rescue is hosting its first ever Paw It Forward fundraiser, launching a new tradition on Friday, December 20th from 12 to 3 p.m. at The Ridge in West Seneca. This community-focused event brings together local businesses, rescue supporters, and families across Western New York to raise critical funds for dogs in need. Throughout the event, Trainwreck Sports will host a telethon-style live stream featuring rescue stories, showcasing adoptable dogs, and encouraging viewers to donate and support Buddy's mission in real time. The fundraiser includes local vendors, raffles and giveaways, adoptable dogs on site, pet photos with Santa Paw It Forward campaign. In conjunction with the event, Buddy's has launched the Paw It Forward campaign, partnering with businesses across Western New York. Supporters can purchase a paw print donation for a $5 minimum at participating locations, write their name, and display it proudly in store. This campaign runs through December 13th, with 100% of proceeds directly supporting the rescue's life-saving work. You can also donate online at bscri.betterworld.org. Funds raised help provide emergency medical care, pulls from high-risk shelters, transportation and foster placement, safe, loving second chances for dogs in need. Participating businesses will be announced on the Second Chance Buddy's Rescue Instagram and Facebook accounts. Christmas activities for children at Merriweather Library. Parents and children are invited to the Frank E. Merriweather Library, located at 1324 Jefferson Avenue, to enjoy the activities for the month of December, beginning with a family craft night on Wednesday, December 3rd, 2025, from 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. Children will be painting snowmen and snowflakes. No registration is needed, and all ages are welcome, with a parent or guardian. On December 13th, 2025, from 1 to 4 p.m., will be Camp BU and Voice Christmas Bazaar and Crafting event. All ages are welcome. For December 18th, at 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., there'll be a Build Your Own Gingerbread House event. For this event, registration is required since space and supplies are limited. All ages are welcome, and parents and guardians may sign up in person by signing up at the desk or by calling 716-883-4418. Children must come with an adult. And the last event for December will be Open Art Time on Monday and Tuesday, December 22nd, 2025, and December 23rd, 2025. Various art supplies, including glue guns, cardboard, along with the usual crayons, colored pencils, and construction paper, will be available for drop-in use during library hours. Children under 5 years old must be with parents or guardians. Library hours for the Frank E. Merriweather Library are Monday, Friday, and Saturday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, 12 noon to 8 p.m., and Sundays from 12 noon to 5 p.m. For more information, please contact Ms. Heather Birmingham, who is the children's librarian, at 716-883-4418. You are listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo Criterion on the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service. This is also from the editorial section. It's a column by Betty Jean Grant titled, "What is the Worth of a Life That Was Stolen?" On a cold December night in Buffalo in 1976, a murder happened on Fillmore Avenue. What makes this murder so unique is that we are still talking about it, almost 50 years later. The fact that the man, who was white, was killed in the hood and lived just a few yards from a public housing project was not a common occurrence around the time of the murder, since most of the white residents on the east side of Buffalo had abandoned the city years ago. And yet, because the man was white, there was an opinion among some in city government and in law enforcement that this case must be resolved as quickly as possible to allay fear among the remaining white populace and assure that they were safe if they continued living in Buffalo, especially on the east side of the city. So, what the officials in the Buffalo Police Department decided to do was to survey or round up all the young black troublemakers to see if light could be shed on which ones of them could have committed this terrible crime. They conducted door-to-door dragnets and sting operations and surveyed the recent media news cut footage to see if they saw any person or persons who might have committed this terrible crime. Among the crowd gathered near the Golden Nugget Tavern to talk to the news media were 5 young men who, due to their troublemaking status and previous arrests for petty and serious crimes, were already known to the police. The Buffalo Police Commissioner, Thomas Blair, and the department's Homicide Bureau, headed by Chief Leo Donovan, rounded up these 5 16-year-old boys, took them downtown, interviewed them for hours on end without giving them food or allowing them to sleep. The interrogators lied and said that each of the others had confessed to the crime and had implicated themselves. And so, without an eyewitness to the crime, no murder weapon found, no recovered money the victim possessed, no confession, and with multiple credible alibis, the 4 innocent men young men were brought to trial. The 5th boy, who had just turned 16, took a plea deal and falsely condemned the other 4 to a murder they did not commit. For his testimony against his friends, this young man was told to join the army, which he did and never came back to Buffalo. 3 of the 4 remaining young men were convicted and wound up serving 20 to 30 years in prison. The lone accused youth had a private attorney, a smart young lawyer named James A.W. McLeod, who used the argument that there was not enough credible evidence to convict his client. He was correct, as his client was found not guilty of murder by an all-white jury. This writer believes, like most people, that if Judge McLeod's client had gone to court first, his verdict of not guilty would have acquitted the 3 boys, who had county public defenders assigned as their trial lawyers and who went to prison for decades, followed by a sentence of lifetime parole. Let us remember that the murdered man, Mr. William Crawford, was beaten to death with an object unknown to the police. His wallet, filled with cash, was never found. Plus, there was no blood on any of the clothes the 5 young men had worn that night. What the police did have was a set of keys found under the victim's body when they took him to the morgue. The police department surmised that the keys belonged to either the killers or the victim, but the set of keys opened none of those doors to either Mr. Crawford's or the teen suspects' houses. What is known, however, is that the neighbor of Mr. Crawford, who was in the bar with him and left with him to walk him home, called the bar the next morning to ask if he left his keys there. So, the man who lived next door to the victim, was drinking with him, and who left with him to escort him home, and was the last person to see him alive, lost his keys, while a set of keys was found near the body. This man was never a suspect, was never arrested or questioned about why he left Mr. Crawford alone while he went to his house just next door. The final insult, the Erie County DA, Edward Cosgrove, and his cousin, Timothy Drury, the county's lead prosecutor, and the lead police committed, was allowing this neighbor to take the stand and testify that he had seen the 5 teenagers in the bar, eyeing Mr. Crawford's wallet the night he was murdered, an allegation the patrons and staff at the tavern vigorously refuted. Prosecutor Tim Drury went on to be elected judge, and the Honorable Timothy Drury recently retired from state Supreme Court. He also gave testimony at the trials in Rochester, New York. A few months after the trial was completed, the neighbor to the murdered victim moved out of Buffalo to a quiet rural town some miles from Buffalo. This gentleman died just a few years ago in a nursing home outside of Buffalo. I will forever believe he is a member of the One Who Got Away Club. In 2020, 2 of the 3 members of the Buffalo 5, John Henry Walker Jr. and Darrell Boyd, had their convictions vacated in state Supreme Court. thanks to local defense lawyer Paul Cambria. Unfortunately, the third member of the Buffalo Five, Darren Gibson, who spent 32 years, 10 extra years after he was eligible for parole, because he refused to confess to a crime he did not commit, he died in 2008 of a massive heart attack less than a year after he was paroled. The fourth member of the Buffalo Five, Floyd Martin, James McLeod's client, was the only one found not guilty and therefore avoided a long prison stay and the miscarriage of justice. He died of natural causes a few years ago. The fifth and final member of the Buffalo Five, Tyrone Woodruff, the one who turned state evidence, the one who lied on his friends and even falsely implicated himself to stay out of prison, partially redeemed himself when he returned to Buffalo and testified at the trial that overturned the conviction of John Walker Jr. and Darrell Boyd. Not only that, Mr. Woodruff also returned to Buffalo to testify at the trial that the lawyers of Walker and Boyd filed against the City of Buffalo Police Department and Erie County District Attorney's Office for either withholding from their attorneys 19 pieces of evidence, including documents such as the set of keys, photographs taken at the scene of the murder, and other material that could have possibly changed the verdict in the murder conviction case. In autumn 2024, the City of Buffalo awarded the two plaintiffs of a lawsuit filed against Buffalo and its homicide department for the illegal and criminal part they played that led to the false arrest, incarceration, conviction, and detention for crimes they knew or should have known, based on evidence, to be innocent of the murder of Mr. William Crawford. The City of Buffalo settled the case for $4.5 million for each of the plaintiffs. Erie County and the District Attorney's Office were presented with a jury verdict that the County of Erie and the DA office was complicit in the wrongful convictions of Walker and Boyd. In April 2025, a jury awarded John Walker $28 million. In November 2025, a jury awarded the estate of Darrell Boyd $80 million. Darrell Boyd died from a form of terminal cancer before he got a chance to spend any of the money awarded by the city, and 6 months before the verdict came in regarding his lawsuit against Erie County. $28 million and $80 million, respectively, is a huge sum of money for the county to pay. That is true. But how can it compare to innocent young boys being arrested and dragged to prison for decades? Simply because the Buffalo Police Department and the Erie County District Attorney Office wanted a murder quickly solved before the remaining good white citizens started leaving the city at a faster pace than they were already doing? A spokesperson for the Erie County Attorney's Law Department, Attorney Jeremy Toth, stated that they will appeal the verdict in both cases. The Erie County Executive, Mark Poloncarz, supports the appeal of the verdict and questioned whether the jurors who awarded those amounts knew that, quote, "we just don't have that kind of money laying around." I am a friend and supporter of the now men of the Buffalo Five. This writer has been supporting them and writing about their case at least since 2009. What the law enforcement community did to those 5 young men was criminal. They deserve to be compensated to the full extent for their pain and suffering, especially when the young men were framed and then prosecuted by Buffalo and Erie County finest. If we can find a couple of $100 million to appease a billionaire sports mogul who does not need the payout, surely we can afford John Walker and the estate of Darrell Boyd the settlement they so rightly deserve. The human, legal, and civil rights of the members of the Buffalo Five were co-opted and compromised. No amount of money can ever give them back what was so cruelly stolen from them. Norman Franklin writes this piece titled, "A Thanksgiving Reminder, Give Thanks for the Good, the Bad, the Ugly." We are in the waning days of 2025, and we are at the threshold of celebrating the 2 biggest holidays of the year, Thanksgiving and Christmas. Both are foundational to our Christian worldview. Christmas brings to us the love of God packaged as the little baby who is Christ our Lord. Our God, Lord, and King entered time and history under the humblest conditions, born in a stable and laid in a bed of hay, which was a feeding trough for slobbering animals, not the royal grand entrance that the religious authorities expected. His parents were poor peasants in their social hierarchy. Their working, poor social standing was the metric used to reject him. The Messiah, the King, the Savior from the lineage of David would come to restore Israel without royal trappings. He would meet his divine destiny decades later. It was on an old, rugged cross. It was bad, it was ugly, but through it we have redemption, and that's good. Thanksgiving, there is something about that holiday that brings families together. Maybe it's the feast of food, perhaps it's the 4-day weekend. It's the most heavily traveled holiday of the year. Millions take to the airway and highways to come home, fellowship and friends with family, and give thanks for the blessings of life, for the journey, for the lessons from the experiences. This is what Americans do. We give thanks to everything. That is a directive from the scriptures, which are the doctrine, the declaration of our Christian faith. An idiom comes to mind. America, with its polished identity, wants to have its cake and eat it too. We want to celebrate deliverance and gratitude without reckoning with the suffering woven into our history. The curated image of America in production for the semi-quincentennial celebration will be a shallow identity of a nation without honest historical roots. It begins in the education sector. The horrors of chattel slavery were reframed. It gave the enslaved market skills they employed in freedom. Textbook content and K-12 curricula are regulated, scrubbed, and scrutinized for their uncomfortable content. The horrors of slavery and the decimation of Native America are reframed in patriotic grandeur. It denies the counsel of God who works all things according to his will. What that says to us is that there were moral and spiritual lessons in the horrors, the atrocities of the chattel slave system, and the genocide of the Native American nation. However, the elitism of whiteness and wealth power, couched in spiritual doctrine, drove the nascent world power down the abyss of moral depravity. The denials, the erasure of uncomfortable history, is confirmation of the guilt and shame the nation bears. We ain't mad at you, America. We understand that you didn't commit the heinous atrocities of your ancestors. Your foreparents did. What we don't appreciate is that you bask in the privileges wrought in systemic injustice, but persist in denying the roots, the foundation, and the dynamic of this system that still plays out in our society and culture today. Somewhere between the manger and the dinner table, between the cross and the family gathering, America has mastered the art of selective remembrance, embracing the comfort of tradition while avoiding the cost of honest reflection. You have been listening to a reading of articles and features from the December 5th issue of the Buffalo Criterion. We read from the Buffalo Criterion every Friday at 7 p.m. Your reader has been Jim Michaely. Thank you for listening.
Coming up next in the Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service, we have the New York Times. Following that, at 9 o'clock is the Buffalo Spree, and at 10 o'clock, we have episode number 9, the conclusion of The First Gentleman by James Patterson and Bill Clinton. Stay with us for these readings and more. Radio Reading mails out a large print program schedule to our listeners every other month. If you have not received a Niagara Frontier Radio Reading Service large print program schedule in the mail, please call us at 716-821-5555. We will make sure that you receive one every other month. A Braille version of the schedule is also available upon request. Our number again is 716-821-5555.
This is Mark Grier.